The first thing Ronan Cade noticed wasn't the blood. It wasn't the chains. It wasn't even the dogs. It was the silence. Not the kind of silence you hear when a room goes quiet. No, this was different. This was controlled, intentional. The kind of silence that felt like someone had turned the volume down on the world itself. And at the center of it, she stood there, barefoot, chained, unmoving, like she had already decided how this night would end. Ronan flexed his hands slowly. Fresh blood slid from his knuckles, dripping onto the concrete floor beneath him. He'd punched the wall 10 minutes ago, not out of anger, but calculation. Pain helped him focus. Right now, he needed focus, because something about this wasn't right. The warehouse was exactly what he expected, a converted meat processing facility tucked beneath an overpass on the edge of Detroit. Rusted beams, cracked floors, old drainage grates built for blood, not water. 24 men lined the walls, buyers, predators, observers, men who smiled too easily. At the far end of the room, under flickering fluorescent lights, the broker clapped his hands together like a man hosting a dinner party instead of an auction. "Gentlemen," he said, voice oily, "final lot of the night." That's when they brought her in. Dragged, not escorted. Her feet scraped against the concrete, but she didn't resist, didn't struggle, didn't cry, didn't make a sound. 2 massive cane corsos moved with her, not pulling, not forcing, flanking. Each one easily over 130 pounds of pure muscle, black coats that swallowed the light, heads low, eyes alert, not barking, not growling, watching, always watching. Thick chains ran from their collars to a steel rod, and that rod was bolted around her neck. The metal had cut deep into her skin, raw, pink, wet under the lights. Still, she didn't react. The broker grinned. "She comes with the dogs," he announced. "Can't separate the package." Laughter rippled through the room. Ronan didn't laugh. He wasn't here for her. He was here because someone was dismantling his life, piece by piece, quietly, surgically, without ever stepping into the light. 6 months ago, Ronan Cade controlled a network worth over $14 million. Real estate, shipping routes, shell companies, cash flow channels that took years to build. Now, it was bleeding out. Every week something vanished. Accounts emptied with perfect authorization. Transfers signed with credentials only 2 people should have known. One of them was dead. The other was him. No forced entries, no digital trace, no mistakes. It wasn't theft, it was erasure. And tonight, he wasn't here for answers. He was here for insurance. The dogs. Animals couldn't be hacked, couldn't be bribed through code. They either trusted you or they tore you apart. The broker snapped his fingers toward the animals. "Top-tier security breeds, fully trained, command responsive, territorial aggression, worth 60 grand each." He paused. "Tonight, 40 for both." Ronan didn't hesitate. "I'll take them." Simple, clean, done. But before the broker could close the deal, "I'll take the girl." The voice cut through the room like glass. Ronan turned his head slightly. Lucas Vance, of course. Tall, clean, expensive suit, the kind of man who didn't belong in a place like this, which made him more dangerous than anyone else here. Because men like Lucas didn't get their hands dirty. They owned the people who did. His eyes were fixed on the girl, not curious, not casual, hungry. "I'll relieve you of the extra burden," Lucas said smoothly. "No need to complicate your purchase." Ronan's jaw tightened. Something shifted in the air.
The girl's fingers curled slightly at her sides. Small movement, almost invisible. But Ronan saw it. She wasn't afraid. She was measuring. Distances, timing, opportunities. He spoke without raising his voice. Unchain her. The room froze. The broker blinked. She's attached to... I said, Ronan repeated calmly, unchain her. Silence. Heavy. Uncomfortable. The kind that made men reconsider their next move. The broker hesitated, eyes flicking between Ronan and Lucas. A decision. A dangerous one. Finally, he waved his hand. Cut it. A young worker stepped forward with bolt cutters. The metal snapped. The collar hit the floor with a sharp clang. For the first time, the girl moved. Not dramatically, not emotionally. Her fingers rose slowly to her neck, touched the raw skin, just once, then dropped. That was it. No relief, no weakness, just confirmation. The dogs shifted closer to her, not guarding her from the room, guarding the room from her. Ronan felt it again, that instinct, that warning. This wasn't a victim. This was something else entirely. Lucas smiled. That's a mistake, he said softly. You don't know what you just bought. Ronan didn't even look at him. Neither do you. He turned. Take the dogs. His men moved immediately. The girl followed. No hesitation, no confusion, like she had already decided to leave long before the chains came off. Behind them, Lucas pulled out his phone, watching, calculating, planning. Ronan didn't need to turn around to know that tonight had just started something. They drove in silence. The city blurred past, empty streets, flickering lights, Detroit at its quietest and most dangerous. The girl sat in the back seat, one dog on each side, still, composed, unshaken. Ronan adjusted the mirror slightly. Their eyes met. For 1 second. That was all it took. There was no fear in them, no confusion, no trauma, just clarity, sharp, focused, alive. He broke the silence. What's your name? Nothing. Not even a blink. He tried again. You're safe now. Still nothing. His lieutenant leaned closer, whispering, Boss, she might be broken. Ronan kept his eyes on the mirror. No, he said quietly. She's not broken. He paused. She's choosing not to speak. That changed everything. Because silence like that wasn't weakness, it was strategy. The compound gates opened with a low mechanical hum. Steel, reinforced, secure. Or, at least, it used to be. Ronan stepped out of the car. The girl followed, barefoot on gravel. And then, she looked around, not casually, not curiously, systematically. Her eyes moved from camera to camera, gate lock, wall height, sensor placement, drainage points, angles, blind spots. It took her less than 15 seconds. Ronan counted. 15. His security team had taken 2 weeks. A cold realization settled in his chest. He hadn't just brought home a mystery. He had brought home a variable, something unpredictable, something powerful, something dangerous. Ronan's phone buzzed. Unknown number. A message. 4 words. You took what's mine. Ronan stared at the screen. Slowly, he looked back at the girl. She was already walking toward the building, the dogs moving with her like shadows, like soldiers, like they belonged to her, not the other way around. And for the first time that night, Ronan Cade felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Not fear, not doubt, something worse. Interest. Because deep down, he knew one thing for certain. He hadn't just interrupted someone else's plan. He had just stepped directly into it. If this hooked you already, that's just the beginning. Because in Chapter 2, the silence breaks, and when she finally speaks, it changes everything. Make sure you like and subscribe, because this story isn't just about power. It's about secrets powerful enough to destroy empires, and you don't want to miss what happens next.
The first time she spoke, it wasn't dramatic. There was no trembling confession, no emotional collapse, no desperate explanation. It happened at 12:17 a.m. Ronan Cade was alone in his office when the hallway lights flickered twice. Not off, not on, just a subtle pulse. His security system didn't flicker. Ever. He froze. The desk lamp cast a low amber circle across financial reports, asset statements, and printed transaction logs. Every page told the same story. Money gone, authorizations valid, no digital prints. Someone was siphoning his empire from inside his own architecture. A soft sound came from the doorway. Not footsteps. Weight shifting across hardwood. Controlled. Balanced. He looked up. She stood there, barefoot again. The dogs were positioned behind her, one blocking the corridor, the other sitting halfway down the hall where the cameras couldn't see. Strategic. She wasn't being protected. She was controlling the perimeter. Her eyes went straight to the documents on his desk. Not his face. Not the room. The numbers. They scanned. Left to right, upside down, fast. And then she said a single word. Northbridge. Ronan's pulse slowed. That wasn't a guess. That was knowledge. He leaned back in his chair slowly. Explain. She stepped into the room without asking permission and closed the door behind her. No hesitation, no fear, just quiet authority. You're tracking the wrong side of the transfers, she said calmly. You're analyzing where the money disappears. She moved around his desk and pulled one document forward. You should be studying where it rests before it moves again. She pointed to a routing number. Temporary holding shell, Delaware, 48-hour lifespan, registered through Northbridge Advisory. Ronan's jaw tightened. He had seen that name. His forensic accountants dismissed it as procedural noise. They're not stealing from you impulsively. They're bleeding you according to a long-cycle harvest model. Silence filled the room. Then, "You built it," Ronan said. Not a question. Her eyes met his. For the first time, something flickered there. Not fear. Regret. Yes. The word was clean. Unapologetic, honest. She took the seat across from him like she belonged there. My name is Aria Velez, she said. I was a forensic systems architect for Argentum Holdings. Ronan felt the air change. Argentum. He knew the name. Too polished, too clean, too invisible. A real estate and asset management giant with billions under management and political ties across multiple states. They recruit analysts straight out of top programs, Aria continued. Tell them they're designing anti-fraud architecture, asset protection systems. Her lips curved faintly. We were, just not for the people we thought. She leaned forward slightly. I built a decentralized siphoning structure capable of extracting assets from organizations that couldn't legally report fraud. Ronan didn't blink. Criminal enterprises, he said flatly. Yes. No judgment, no apology. They identified targets with unreported liquidity, businesses that operate partially outside regulation, groups that rely on shadow networks. Her eyes locked onto his. They steal from people who can't call the police. The words landed heavy. How many? Ronan asked. 23 confirmed, across 9 states, over 4 years. And me? You were a slow drain model, she replied. Lower risk, long-term extraction. His hands tightened into fists. How much? From you alone? Approximately 5.6 million so far. The number hit harder than he expected. Not because of the money, but because of the precision. That's impossible, he muttered. Every signature matches mine. Yes, she said calmly, because the system clones behavioral authorization patterns. He went still. What? It doesn't copy your signature, she explained. It replicates your behavioral rhythm. She reached for a pen and tapped the desk twice. You authorize transfers between 9:12 and 9:40 a.m. 92% of the time. You favor rounded figures under 7 digits. You pause for approximately 3 seconds before high-value approvals. She looked at him directly. The system learns you. The room felt smaller, colder. You memorized this? He asked. I designed it. Silence pressed in. Why are you here? Ronan asked finally. Her jaw tightened slightly. Because 18 months ago, I discovered the master ledger. He didn't interrupt. There were 2 books, the operational structure I built and the executive routing structure that moved funds into offshore holding conglomerates. Her voice remained steady. When I confronted them, they erased me. Her apartment burned in what was ruled an electrical fire, her credentials revoked, her social security number flagged as deceased, her banking access frozen, her identity dissolved. She made me legally non-existent, she said quietly. Ronan studied her face. No drama, no theatrics, just fact. And the dogs? He asked. They were executive security assets, trained under my supervision. I was the only handler they responded to without aggression. Why sell you? Because Lucas Merrick wanted me gone. Ronan recognized the name. Lucas, the man from the warehouse. Corporate smile, dead eyes. He oversees operational cleanup, she said, when assets become liabilities. Ronan exhaled slowly. And the text? He asked. Her expression didn't change. That was him. The phone on Ronan's desk vibrated suddenly. Both of them looked down. Unknown number. Another message. Return the asset. Final warning. Ronan looked up at her. They're watching this compound, she said calmly. How? She stood. Show me your server room. 10 minutes later, they were in the lower-level control room. Racks of hardware, firewall arrays, backup drives. Ronan's men watched nervously. Arya crouched near the main terminal. Who installed this last update? She asked. Sentinel Dynamics, Marco replied. Through Argentum subcontracting? She asked without looking up. Marco hesitated. Yes. She nodded once. There it is. She tapped 3 keys. A hidden background process illuminated on the screen. Dormant. Quiet. Waiting. Ronan felt his stomach drop. That's a passive beacon, she said. It pings external servers every 4 hours with network summaries. You're saying they can see everything? Marco asked. Not everything, she corrected. Just enough. She unplugged a cable and inserted a small flash drive from her pocket. Within seconds, the process collapsed. Temporary fix, she said. They'll know it's offline within 12 hours.
Ronan stepped closer. Then what? Her eyes lifted to his. Then they escalate. As if summoned by the word, the lights cut out. Total darkness. Not flickering. Dead. A split second later, the outer perimeter alarm screamed. Marco cursed. North wall breach. Gunfire cracked in the distance. Not warning shots. Precise. Measured. Ronan didn't hesitate. Positions. His men moved. Arya didn't run. She walked to the emergency control panel. "You have 90 seconds before they reach the courtyard," she said. "How do you know?" Ronan demanded. "Because I wrote their breach timing models." Outside, the dogs were already moving. Silent. Fast. Deadly. Ronan grabbed his sidearm. He looked at Arya one more time. "You started this." Her gaze was steady. "No," she replied. "I ended it." And outside, the war began. If your heart is pounding right now, that's because this isn't just a story about crime. It's a story about systems, power, control, and what happens when the architect decides to burn the blueprint. In Chapter 3, the siege turns personal, and someone doesn't survive it. If you're locked in, make sure you subscribe now, because this is where most people fall behind. And trust me, you don't want to miss what happens when Argentum realizes that.
The first shot didn't sound like chaos. It sounded precise, controlled, like someone had already decided who was going to die. Ronan Cade stepped into the courtyard just as the second shot cracked through the night, sharper, closer. One of his men dropped instantly. No warning, no scream, just impact. Blood hit the gravel, and then everything exploded. Gunfire tore through the compound from two angles, not random, coordinated. Whoever was coming in knew the layout, knew the blind spots, knew exactly where to hit. "East wall compromised," Marco shouted from behind a pillar. Ronan moved fast, dragging the fallen man behind cover. His pulse wasn't racing, it had slowed into something colder, focused. This wasn't a break-in, this was an execution. Across the courtyard, a shadow moved, low, fast, silent. Then a scream ripped through the night, short, cut off, tighten. The massive cane Corso hit one of the intruders like a truck. No warning bark, no hesitation, just impact and destruction. The man didn't even get a second chance. Ghost was already moving too, not toward the noise, but toward the second shooter. She had mapped them, predicted them, hunted them. Gunfire shifted direction suddenly, panicked now, unstable. That's when Ronan realized something chilling. The attackers hadn't planned for resistance like this. Inside the control room, Arya Valles didn't move like someone under attack. She moved like someone who had seen this moment before, calculated it, expected it. 30 seconds, she said calmly, eyes on the security monitor backup feed. Marco stared at her. 30 seconds to what? She didn't answer, because right then, the west gate exploded. Metal tore open under controlled detonation, not improvised, professional. 4 men stepped through the smoke, black tactical gear, no markings, no hesitation, clean formation. Ronan's jaw tightened. Not thieves, retrieval unit. One of the men raised his weapon, but before he could fire, a blur moved across the darkness. Ghost. She didn't attack head-on. She circled, flanked, then struck from the side. The man fired, missed, and then she was on him. Fast, precise, lethal. No wasted movement, no mercy. "Fall back," Marco yelled, but Ronan didn't move, because he saw something else. One of the attackers wasn't engaging. He was watching, standing near the broken gate, still, calm, different. Even from this distance, Ronan recognized him. Lucas Merrick. Lucas stepped forward slowly, clapping once, not loud, not dramatic, just enough.
"Well," he called out smoothly, voice cutting through the chaos. This escalated faster than expected. Ronan raised his gun. Lucas didn't. He smiled. "You really should have returned her," he said. Ronan's voice was ice. "You brought an army for one woman?" Lucas tilted his head slightly. "No," he said. "I brought a team for a system." His eyes flicked briefly toward the building, toward Arya. "And now I see the rumors were true." Before Ronan could respond, a shot rang out from behind him. Close, too close. He turned. Marco staggered, blood spreading across his chest, confusion in his eyes. Then he dropped. Ronan's world snapped into sharp focus. Not from outside, from inside. Another figure stepped out from the shadows near the inner corridor. One of Ronan's own men. Darius. Gun still raised, face calm. Too calm. Ronan felt something colder than anger settle in his chest. Betrayal. "You sold us out," Ronan said quietly. Darius didn't flinch. "They were already in your system. I just made sure I landed on the winning side." "You killed your own people." Darius shrugged slightly. "They were already dead. They just didn't know it yet." Gunfire erupted again, but this time from both sides, because now the battlefield had changed. This wasn't Ronan versus intruders anymore. This was fracture, internal collapse, exactly how Argentum liked it. Inside, Arya watched the monitor go black. She closed her eyes briefly. One breath. Then she moved, fast, purposeful. She grabbed a toolkit from the side cabinet and headed for the back corridor. One of Ronan's men blocked her path. "Where are you going?" She didn't slow down. "If I don't shut down their access point, this entire compound will be mapped and wiped within the hour." "That doesn't help us right now." She stopped, turned, and for the first time, there was fire in her eyes. "If I don't fix this, there won't be a right now left to survive." The man froze. That's all she needed. She moved past him. Back outside, Ronan fired. One shot. Clean. Darius dropped. No hesitation. No second thought. The betrayal registered, but it didn't matter. Not now. Lucas watched it happen, still smiling. "See," he said casually, "your system is already collapsing." Ronan didn't respond. He stepped forward, gun steady. "Call them off." Lucas laughed softly. "You still don't understand," he said. "This was never about taking her back." He gestured slightly, and two more figures emerged from the shadows behind him. Not armed, not rushing, calm, watching. "It's about testing her," Lucas continued, "and now we have our answer." A sudden sound cut through the chaos, a loud metallic shift. Then silence. Not complete, but wrong. The kind of silence that comes just before something breaks. The lights came back on, every single one, flooding the compound in harsh white brightness. Everyone froze, even the attackers, even Lucas. Arya stepped out from the building, barefoot, calm, holding something small in her hand, a device, the system core. She looked directly at Lucas. "You should have stayed in the shadows," she said. Her voice carried, clear, cold, controlled. Lucas's smile faded slightly. "Arya," he said, not mocking anymore, recognizing, respecting. "You finally decided to speak." She tilted her head slightly. "No," she replied. "I decided to act." She pressed the device, and everything changed. The attackers' comms died instantly. Their formation broke. Confusion, delay. Exactly 3 seconds. That's all Ronan needed. He moved, fast, decisive, and this time they weren't ready. Within minutes, it was over. The survivors ran. Lucas stepped back slowly, hands raised slightly, not surrendering, calculating, adjusting. "You've made this very inconvenient," he said. Arya didn't respond. Ronan stepped beside her, gun still raised. "This ends now." Lucas smiled again, but this time there was something darker behind it. "No," he said quietly, "this just became war." He turned and disappeared into the night. Silence returned, real silence this time, broken only by heavy breathing and the cost of what just happened. Marco was dead, 3 others gone, the courtyard stained, the walls no longer felt secure. Ronan looked at Arya, really looked at her, not as a mystery, not as an asset, but as something far more dangerous. You didn't just escape them, you disrupted them. She met his gaze. Yes. A pause. Then, they won't stop now. Ronan nodded once. Neither would he. If you felt that shift, that's because everything just changed. This is no longer a mystery. It's a war. And in Chapter 4, we go deeper into the system, into the names, into the truth, and into the one mistake Arya made that might cost them everything. Make sure you subscribe now, because this story doesn't slow down from here. It only gets more dangerous.
The first shot didn't sound real. It was too sharp, too clean, like something breaking inside your head rather than outside. For a split second, no one moved. Not the guests, not the guards, not even Daniel. Then, chaos detonated. A woman screamed, glasses shattered, the soft music died mid-note as the violinist dropped his bow, and suddenly the illusion was gone. The luxury, the calm, the control, all of it ripped apart in seconds. Daniel didn't flinch. His hand tightened around Elena's wrist, not roughly, but firmly enough to anchor her to reality. "Stay close," he said. But his voice had changed. It wasn't the calm, controlled tone she had grown used to. It was colder, sharper, dangerous. Another shot, this one closer. A guard near the entrance dropped instantly, his body hitting the marble floor with a sickening thud. Blood spread fast, too fast. Elena gasped, instinctively stepping back, but Daniel pulled her forward instead. Not that way. His eyes were already scanning the room, calculating, predicting, like he had seen this before, like he expected it. "Who are they?" Elena whispered, her voice shaking. Daniel didn't answer, and that silence, that scared her more than the gunshots. The doors burst open. Men in black flooded the room, faces covered, movements precise, weapons raised. Not random attackers, not amateurs. This was planned. "Everyone down," one of them shouted. But no one listened. Panic had already taken over. People ran in every direction, trampling over each other, desperate to escape. And that's when the attackers opened fire again. Daniel moved fast, too fast for someone who was just a businessman. He pulled Elena down behind a marble pillar just as bullets tore through the space where they had been standing seconds earlier. Fragments of stone exploded into the air. Elena flinched, covering her head. "Daniel!" Daniel cut in, gripping her shoulders. "Listen to me. No matter what happens, you do exactly what I say. Do you understand?" His eyes locked onto hers, dark, intense, unyielding. For the first time, she saw fear, not for himself, for her. She nodded. It was the only thing she could do. "Good," he said, "because they're not here for anyone else." A pause. Then, "They're here for you." Her heart stopped. "What?" But before he could explain, a bullet slammed into the pillar inches from her head. "Move!" Daniel snapped. He grabbed her again, pulling her through the chaos as the room descended into full-blown war. Not just an attack, a hunt. Elena's mind couldn't keep up. "They're here for you." The words echoed over and over. Why? How? Who would come into a place like this with this level of precision just to get to her? "Daniel, I don't understand." "You don't need to understand right now," he said, his voice low and urgent. "You just need to survive." They reached a corridor, narrow, dimly lit, away from the main hall. For a brief moment, the gunfire sounded distant, muted, but not gone, never gone. Daniel stopped, turned to her, and for the first time since this started, he hesitated. "Elena," he said quietly. Her name sounded different in his voice now. Not controlled, not distant, almost personal. "There are things I didn't tell you." Her chest tightened. "I figured that. Even now, even in the middle of fear, a trace of defiance slipped into her voice.
because something inside her had finally snapped. No more confusion, no more blind trust. She deserved answers. Daniel exhaled slowly, as if he had been holding this moment back for a long time. "They've been watching you," he said. Her stomach dropped. "Since when?" "A long time." "How long is long?" His silence was enough. No, that's not possible. I would have noticed. I would have—" "That you wouldn't have," he said firmly, "because they're very good at what they do." Another distant gunshot echoed through the hallway, closer this time. "Daniel," her voice trembled. "Who are they?" He looked at her, really looked at her, as if weighing whether telling her the truth would save her or destroy her. Before he could answer, footsteps, fast, coming straight toward them. Daniel's entire body went rigid. He turned, pulling Elena behind him in one smooth motion. His posture shifted again, protective, lethal. Two men rounded the corner, masked, armed. Time slowed. Elena felt it, the exact moment everything could end. Right here, right now. One of the men raised his weapon. Target confirmed. Target, not victim, not hostage. Target. Elena's breath caught. They weren't guessing. They knew. Daniel moved before the man could pull the trigger. A blur, a flash of controlled violence. He disarmed the first attacker with brutal efficiency, the weapon clattering to the floor as the man collapsed. The second fired, but missed, barely, the bullet grazing Daniel's shoulder instead. Elena screamed, "Daniel!" But he didn't stop, didn't slow down, didn't even react to the blood. Within seconds, the second attacker was down. Silence returned, heavy, temporary. Elena stared at him, breathing hard, shaking. "You're bleeding." "I'm fine." He wasn't, but he said it as if it didn't matter. Her mind was spinning. Nothing made sense anymore. Not the attack, not the men, not him. "Daniel, you said they're after me," she said, her voice barely steady. "Why?" Daniel didn't answer immediately. He picked up one of the dropped weapons instead, checked it, prepared it, like this wasn't new to him. "Because of who you are," he said. Her brows furrowed. "That doesn't make any sense." "It will." "That's not an answer, Daniel." Her voice broke, louder than she intended, but she didn't care anymore. Fear had turned into something else now, something sharper, something stronger. "People are trying to kill me," she said. "You clearly know why, so stop treating me like I'm fragile and tell me the truth." Silence, heavy, thick. Then Daniel stepped closer, so close she could feel the heat of him, the tension, the danger. "Do you want the truth?" he asked quietly. She nodded, even though every instinct screamed at her to run. He leaned in slightly and said the words that shattered everything she thought she knew. "Because your father didn't die in an accident." Her world stopped. "What?" Daniel's eyes didn't leave hers. His death was planned. Her heart pounded violently. No, that's not true. I was there. I saw." "You saw what they wanted you to see." Her head spun. The hallway, the noise, everything felt distant, unreal. "No," she whispered again, but this time there was doubt. "Daniel," her voice trembled, "what does this have to do with me?" His answer came like a blade, sharp, cold, unforgiving. "Everything." Footsteps echoed again, more this time, more men, more danger. Daniel grabbed her hand again, tighter than before. "We don't have time," he said. "But later, if we survive this, I'll tell you everything." If. That word hit harder than anything else. He pulled her forward again, deeper into the unknown, as the sound of approaching footsteps closed in. And just before they disappeared around the corner, a voice echoed through the corridor, calm, controlled, terrifying. "Don't let them escape." Elena's blood ran cold, because she recognized that voice, and the moment she did, she realized something far worse than the attack itself. This wasn't random. This wasn't just about her past. This was someone she knew, and they had been waiting for this moment.
The moment Elena recognized the voice, her body stopped responding. Not slowed, not frozen. Shut down. Like her mind refused to process what her ears had just confirmed. "No," she whispered under her breath. But the word didn't carry strength, it carried denial. Daniel noticed immediately. He didn't stop moving, but his grip on her hand tightened. "Do you know that voice?" he asked. Elena didn't answer, because answering would make it real. And if it was real, then everything she believed about her life, her past, her safety, was a lie. "Elena!" Daniel's voice cut through the noise again, sharper this time, urgent. "I need you focused." "I know that voice," she said finally. Her tone was hollow, like the realization was still settling into her bones. Daniel's expression darkened. "From where?" She swallowed, hard. "Someone I trust." That was all he needed to hear. "Then we're in more danger than I thought." Gunfire echoed again behind them, closer now, relentless. Daniel pulled her into a side passage, narrow, dim, barely lit, a service corridor, hidden from the main flow of the building. For a brief moment, there was silence. Not safety, just a pause. Elena leaned against the wall, her breathing uneven, her heart still racing, her thoughts crashing into each other. "It can't be him," she said, more to herself than to Daniel. "Who?" Daniel pressed. She shook her head. "I need to be sure." Daniel didn't like that answer. It showed. But before he could push further, a slow clap echoed from the darkness ahead. Both of them froze, not out of fear, but out of instinct. Because that sound, it wasn't rushed, it wasn't chaotic, it was calm, measured, controlled, and that made it far more dangerous. "Well," the voice said smoothly, "I was wondering how long it would take you to figure it out." Elena's chest tightened violently. No more doubt, no more confusion. She knew that voice. A figure stepped forward from the shadows, elegant, composed, untouched by the chaos happening just meters away, and when the light finally revealed his face, Elena felt her world collapse. "Victor?" She whispered his name. Victor Hale, the man who had stood beside her at her father's funeral, the man who had comforted her when she couldn't stop crying, the man who had told her, "I'll always protect you." And now he was standing in front of her like a stranger, or worse, like an enemy. Victor smiled, soft, polite, almost familiar. "There it is," he said gently. "That look." Elena shook her head, stepping back. No, this doesn't make sense. You were there for me. You helped me. I lied," he said simply. The words hit harder than any bullet. Elena's breath caught, her entire body trembling now. "Why?" she demanded. Victor tilted his head slightly, as if considering how much to reveal. "That's a complicated question," he said. "Then simplify it," she snapped. For the first time, emotion broke through her fear. Anger, betrayal, pain. "You stood next to me while I buried my father," she said, her voice shaking. "You told me it was an accident. Because you needed to believe that," Victor interrupted calmly. Her chest tightened. "And now?" she asked. "What do I need to believe now?" Victor's faded. Not completely, just enough. That you were never supposed to live this long. Silence. Cold, heavy, unforgiving. Elena felt something inside her break. Daniel stepped slightly in front of her, subtle, protective. Victor's eyes shifted to him, and for the first time, there was recognition. "Daniel Mercer," Victor said, almost impressed. "I was hoping you'd be here." Daniel's jaw tightened. Funny,
he replied coldly. "I can't say the same." Victor chuckled softly. "You've been harder to eliminate than expected, but I suppose that's what makes this interesting." Elena's eyes darted between them. "You two know each other?" Daniel didn't take his eyes off Victor, unfortunately. Victor smiled again, but this time there was no warmth in it. "You should thank him, Elena," Victor said lightly. "He's the only reason you're still alive." Her heart skipped. "What does that mean?" she asked. Victor's gaze returned to her, sharp now, focused. "It means," he said slowly, "that your life has been hanging by a thread for a long time." Elena felt her pulse in her ears, loud, overwhelming. "And tonight," Victor continued, his voice lowering slightly, "that thread gets cut." He lifted his hand slightly, and just like that, armed men emerged from the shadows behind him, not rushing, not panicked, waiting for his command. Daniel shifted his stance, prepared, calculating. "Elena," he said quietly without looking back, "when I say run, you don't stop." Her heart pounded harder. "No," she said instinctively. "This isn't a discussion," Daniel replied. Victor watched the exchange with interest. "You still don't get it, do you?" Victor said. Daniel didn't respond. Victor's smile widened slightly. "Because she's not running anywhere." Elena's breath caught. "Because this," Victor gestured slightly around them, "was never about chasing her." A pause. "It was about cornering her." Daniel's expression hardened. He understood. They weren't escaping. They had been led here, trapped. Elena felt it too. The walls, the narrow corridor, no exits, no options. Her chest tightened. "Elena," she whispered, but before she could say anything else, Victor gave the command, "Now." Everything exploded at once. Gunfire, movement, violence. Daniel reacted instantly, pulling Elena down as bullets tore through the corridor. The sound was deafening, relentless. "Go!" he shouted. This time, she didn't hesitate. Elena ran. Her legs moved before her mind could catch up. Her heart slammed against her chest. Her breath came in sharp, uneven bursts. Behind her, chaos, gunshots, struggle. Daniel. She didn't look back. She couldn't, because if she did, she might stop. And if she stopped, she would die. But just as she reached the end of the corridor, a hand grabbed her arm, hard. She gasped, struggling instinctively, until she saw his face. Victor. "How?" she said. He smiled, calm, unshaken. "You really thought you could outrun this?" he asked, softly. Her heart dropped. Behind her, the gunfire stopped. Silence followed, the worst kind. Elena felt something inside her break. "Daniel!" she whispered. Victor didn't answer. He didn't need to, because the look in his eyes said everything. Elena's world tilted. "No, no, he's not." Victor leaned closer, his voice barely above a whisper. He was never going to make it out of this. Tears filled her eyes instantly. Rage, pain, fear, all colliding at once. "You're lying," she said, but this time she wasn't sure. Victor studied her for a moment. Then, for the first time, his expression shifted, not into anger, not into cruelty, into something colder, final. "Take her," he ordered. Two men stepped forward immediately. Elena struggled, kicked, fought, but it was useless. As they dragged her away, she screamed, not out of fear, but out of something deeper. "Daniel!" No answer, only silence. And as that silence swallowed her whole, one terrifying thought took over her mind. If Daniel was gone, then there was no one left to save her, and whatever Victor had planned had only just begun.
The first thing Elena noticed was the silence. Not the peaceful kind, not the kind that lets you breathe. No,
This silence felt alive, heavy, watching, waiting. Her eyes opened slowly, blurred at first, then sharper, colder, real. Concrete walls, dim lighting, a single metal chair across from her, and her hands tied. Her heart jumped into her throat. Panic hit instantly, fast, violent. She pulled at the restraints. Nothing. Too tight, too deliberate. "Where am I?" she whispered, but her voice sounded foreign, weak, shaken. "Safe enough." The voice came from the shadows, calm, controlled, familiar. Elena's chest tightened. "Victor!" He stepped into the light like he belonged there, like this place, this cold, suffocating room, was built for him. "You're awake faster than expected," he said, observing her carefully. She glared at him. Fear was still there, but something else had taken its place too. Hatred. "What did you do to me?" she demanded. Victor shrugged slightly. "Nothing permanent." Her stomach twisted. "Where is he?" Victor didn't pretend not to understand. "Dead," he said simply. The word hit, harder than anything else. Elena's breath caught. Her vision blurred for a second. "No, no, 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 you're lying," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. Victor watched her closely, studying her reaction, almost curious. "You want him to be alive," he said. "I understand that." Her hands clenched against the restraints. "But hope," he added quietly, "doesn't change reality." A tear slipped down her cheek. She didn't wipe it away, because deep down, she didn't know what to believe anymore. Daniel's voice echoed in her mind. "If we survive this, I'll tell you everything." If. Her chest tightened painfully. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. Victor exhaled slowly, as if tired of repeating himself. "Because you were never supposed to exist in the first place." Silence. Elena blinked. "What does that even mean?" Victor stepped closer, not rushed, not aggressive, certain. "It means," he said, "that your father made a decision that changed everything." Her heart pounded. "What decision?" Victor's eyes locked onto hers. "He chose you over us." Confusion hit instantly. "Over who?" she asked. Victor smiled faintly. "That," he said, "is a much bigger story." Her frustration snapped. "Stop doing that!" she shouted. "Stop talking in riddles and just tell me the truth!" For the first time, Victor's expression hardened. "You're not in a position to demand anything." Silence slammed into the room again. Elena's breathing slowed, not because she was calm, but because something inside her had shifted. Fear was still there, but it wasn't controlling her anymore. "Then why am I still alive?" she asked quietly. Victor paused. That question, it mattered, because she was right. If she was truly a threat, if she was truly never supposed to exist, why keep her alive? Victor tilted his head slightly. "Because killing you now," he said slowly, "would be a waste." Her stomach dropped. "What are you planning?" she asked. Victor didn't answer, not directly. Instead, he reached into his coat and pulled out something small, a photograph. He held it up in front of her. Elena's breath caught. It was old, faded, but clear enough. Her father, younger, alive, standing next to... Her eyes widened. "No," she whispered, because the man standing beside her father was Victor, but different, not cold, not calculating, smiling. "Surprised?" Victor asked. Her mind spun. "You knew him?" she said. Victor's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Knew him?" he repeated softly. A pause. "I built everything with him." The words hit like a shock wave. "What?" she breathed. Victor stepped closer. We were partners, brothers in everything but blood. Her heart raced. "That's not possible," she said. "My father never mentioned you." Victor's jaw tightened slightly. Of course he didn't. Something dark flickered in his eyes. Because he betrayed me. Silence. Heavy. Explosive. Elena stared at him. "No," she said slowly. "You're lying." Victor didn't react. "Am I?" he asked. He crouched slightly, bringing himself to her level. "Then ask yourself this," he continued. "Why would a man like your father, careful, powerful, respected, suddenly die in an accident?" Her chest tightened. Because it wasn't an accident. The truth landed again, harder this time. "And you're saying you had nothing to do with it?" she challenged. Victor smiled. "I didn't say that." Her breath hitched. "But I didn't act alone." Elena's world tilted again. "What does that mean?" Victor straightened. "It means that there are people far more dangerous than me." A chill ran down her spine. "And they're coming," he finished. Silence. Then a loud crash echoed somewhere above. Victor's head snapped slightly toward the sound. Annoyance flickered across his face. "That's earlier than expected," he muttered. Elena's heart skipped. "What was that?" Victor didn't answer immediately. Instead, he smiled. But this time, it wasn't calm. It was irate. "Seems your ghost doesn't know when to stay dead." Her breath caught. "What?" Another crash. Closer this time. Footsteps. Fast. Violent. Coming straight toward them. Elena's heart slammed against her chest. No, it couldn't be. The door behind Victor exploded open. Wood splintered. Metal screamed. Dust filled the air. And through the chaos, a figure stepped in, breathing hard, blood on his shirt, eyes burning with something fierce, unstoppable. Elena's entire world froze. Daniel? He was alive. Not just alive, furious. Victor turned slowly, and for the first time, his composure cracked. "Impressive," he said. Daniel didn't respond. His eyes were locked on Elena. "You're okay?" he asked. She nodded instantly, tears falling without permission. Relief hit her so hard it hurt. But it didn't last, because the moment Daniel stepped further into the room, Victor moved. Fast, a gun appeared in his hand, aimed directly at Elena. Everything stopped. "Take one more step," Victor said calmly, "and she dies." Daniel froze. Elena's breath caught. Time stretched. Tension snapped tight between them. Victor's finger rested lightly on the trigger. "Now," he continued softly, "let's try this again, but properly." Daniel's jaw clenched. "You're not walking out of here." Victor smiled faintly. "Oh, I don't plan to," he replied. A pause. "I plan to finish this." Elena's heart pounded violently because she realized something terrifying in that moment. This wasn't about escape anymore. This wasn't about survival. This was war, and she was standing right in the middle of it.